Hey, son, how are you today?
Doing great, Dad. Happy to be here. How you doing?
Great. Welcome to Life of Larry episode number 1. How you feeling?
Feel great. Feel really good.
Yeah, me too. Well, this is Life of Larry LOL, and you know me, I'm your dad. I'm 72 years old, as hard as that is to believe. And you know what? My career accomplishments are done.
Yeah. Well, you had a long career. It's like that. But the years fly by. As you've told me before, it's like I think one time you told me the idea was like life is faster than you know it. But I remember you telling me one time when I was in high school, like, oh, you'll realize you'll wake up and it'll feel like 2 weeks ago, but it was 5 years, and it's true.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're right. And at age 72, it's gone by pretty fast, but I'm still here with you.
That's the important thing. Yeah,
And that's a good point. What are we doing here? We doing a podcast?
I think we are. Yeah, we're
Well,
we're getting
if,
started.
of course we are, because you asked me. See this? What's that?
I remember that. Yep, sent it as a Christmas gift.
What's it say?
Dad, I want to hear your story.
Yes. And that's why we're here. Because I can write inside this book and write down a story, but all you'll hear is this. Pages turning. You won't really hear my voice. And that's kind of a big deal. You know, what we're doing right here is amazing. This technology allows the generations to hear the voice of their ancestors. And so I appreciate that you asked me to tell you my story and that you're working together with me on this podcast so that you and your siblings and my grandkids and great grandkids and even beyond that will get to hear my voice. How about that?
Yeah, it's spectacular. Way better than just reading words in a book.
Yes, sir. I have a legacy that I'm passing down through this podcast and also stories and life lessons to share, but not just for us and our family. I want to show seniors that they can tell their stories too. You know, I see on the internet a lot of ads for older folks to do what you asked me to do. And they'll write the story for you. You just fill out their little questionnaire and you pay them cash money. And then they'll write your story to pass down to the generations. The problem is you still don't get to hear your ancestors' voice, and little books like this get lost or, thrown away when you move to a new house. But what we're doing right here has longevity to it. Electronically with thumb drives, my story lives on. So again, I appreciate you asking me to do this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think to your point, it's other families see this and they want to pass it along. I think this is a way more purposeful way to do it. I mean, writing in a book is fine, but yeah, like having the stories from the horse's mouth, that's really what it's all about. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, looking forward to it.
Well, I thank you for putting us on this path.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of an odd title behind me. It says Life of Larry ... LOL.
What's that about?
Yeah, tell me, son, what's that mean, LOL?
Oh man. First thing that comes to mind would be laugh out loud.
Yes, sir. And that's a big part of my life. Is laughter is really been a big part of my life. Laughter heals, it teaches, it brings joy. There's nothing like it to enjoy life. Laughter is one of the keys to enjoying life. But it also means, LOL, Life of Larry. How about that? Even that
Fantastic.
fits. But also, LOL means to love out loud. And that's another key in my life. Is Jesus said the greatest of these is love, to love thy neighbor as thyself. But you know what? The Beatles agreed. They said all you need is love, and I believe in both.
Yeah, I mean those are two great mentors to believe in. I mean, can't get much better than that. So
Yes. Well, what about this behind me that says The Life of Larry LOL, Stumbling to Success?
Mm-hmm.
You know, during my life, I haven't planned out much. I'm not really that kind of person where I sit down and write out, you know, life goals or monthly goals or daily goals or any of that. But God has led me into some pretty amazing experiences. My life is blessed. It's full of amazing events listed up here behind me. Some of those events: working at Disneyland, having a father who was a genius in motorcycles, being in the Navy for 24 years and flying in the F-14. But I stumbled into all of it. I stumbled into my job at Disneyland. I stumbled into joining the service. And amazingly, I stumbled into having 7 kids and 14 greats and grandchildren. Isn't that something?
That's incredible. Yeah, absolutely. The tree just keeps on growing, you know?
Yeah, it does. And by the way, you're uncle to all 14 of those grandkids. How about that?
That's incredible. Yeah.
Even
I
a
try to do
even
my
a
best.
great uncle for Isaiah and Amaya, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Pretty wild. I've been an uncle as long as I've been alive, you know. So that's always been like a fun thing to kind of wrap my head around. But yeah, it's awesome.
Yes. Sienna, your niece, is older than you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, just about a year and a few months older. So.
Yes. Well, under stumbling to success, that's the next item, is being a dad to 7 kids. We'll talk to all of your siblings. You have 3 brothers and 3 sisters, and we'll talk to them all, as well as all those nieces and nephews and great nieces and great nephews you have. We're going to talk to them all. We're going to get their stories. They're going to tell lies. They're going to say something. And it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and next on the list up here is I'm a 60s rock child. Just amazing to have grown up in the 60s. It's hard to explain. Music was coming from everywhere. The succeeding generations born in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s have been surrounded by music their whole lives since they were kids. It's sort of taken for granted. But in the 60s, it was new. I mean, the 50s had Elvis. He was good, but not a cultural change like the 60s were. There was the Beatles, the Stones, Dylan, The Who, CSNY, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. It was coming from all directions. And it was just amazing. I'd get my $40 each week on a Friday, and I'd go to the record store and see what was coming out that week, what was new. Even Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, and Jim Morrison, they were big in the 60s. And of course, all of them joined the 27-year-old club. You've heard of that, right?
Yeah, it is an unfortunate club for rock stars, but they lived fast, you know. They did live fast.
Yes. And they were a huge part of that culture in the 60s. Like I'm saying, it was an explosion. It was a revolution in the streets. And in the meantime, we went to the moon in the 60s. So we were tie-dyed, long hair, wore bell-bottoms. And one of the famous sayings in that time frame that kind of talked about the free nature of that lifestyle in the 60s, there were communes and all kinds of stuff. But a famous saying was about free love. And that was gas, grass, or ass. Nobody rides for free. Now, I'm not sure that Jesus would agree with that concept of free love, but I think the Beatles probably did.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, and coming from my generation, you know, I think a lot of my generation's trying to like appreciate that, you know, and even recreate it in a sense with like the festivals and the music scene. But I think for somebody my age, having a Beatles song that just came out on Friday and is brand new, my generation can't really even comprehend what that must feel like. Do you remember like having that feeling when the album came out?
Yeah, it was fresh. It was exciting. Yeah, we were in anticipation about what's coming next. What are the Beatles going to do next? That's one of the things I want to do with that topic is if I can get the rights, I don't have them right now, but if I can get the rights to the Beatles music, I would love to go through each of their albums one at a time and listen to each song and then talk about what those songs meant to me. Because we had no idea what was coming next. All we knew is that every Beatles album that came out was greater than the last one. And they produced albums every 6 months.
Yeah, they were the band itself. How long were they around for? Because it was very condensed, right? Like they were put, like you said, like albums for like very frequently were coming out. But
yes.
How long was the band itself around?
Well, they came to America in 1964, and they were already big in Europe, but for us, that's when they kind of came into our awareness, and they broke up in 1970, 6 years later.
Wow.
But I want to share all those stories with you and with our audience about the 60s, and many people in our audience lived in those times and will identify with the stories I'm sharing with you, and hopefully they will start some of their own legacy podcasts as well. I'd love for what you and I are doing to catch fire and have all kinds of seniors do this to pass their legacies down to their kids.
Yep, it'd be very appreciated, that's for sure. You know, pass it on, pass it along to the next generation.
Sir. So next on this list is a topic you're familiar with. I'm the son of a genius.
Yes,
Who
sir.
is that? Who was my dad?
Grandpa Stan DeShong.
Yes. And he was very famous, and people even nowadays, I have a friend that stays in touch. He belongs to where are they now, drag racer groups on Facebook. Anyway, he hears from those people that they remember your grandpa, Stan DeShong, still talking about him. I mean, he was at Bonneville in 1951, doing 155 miles an hour in a T-shirt.
That's crazy.
And all over the drag strips in Lyons. He set the 1/4 and half mile records in Lyons on a Harley that he built from the ground up. It's 96 cubic inches. Harley didn't even make a 100 cubic inch engine until the 1990s, and this was in the 1950s. And you know, he had an antique motorcycle museum. I know you spent some time up there.
Yeah, I remember one of my core memories with Grandpa Stan was we were helping him sand the display banister to kind of cycle off the motorcycles so that people could lean on and everything. And I remember him giving me some advice working the sander. So yeah, it was awesome to just get to be a little bit part of that experience, you know.
Yes, sir, you bet. Well, I've got some trinkets here. I got this calendar that I had made for your grandpa, and it shows him on that hog that I said, well, he called the bike the hog because the way it drank fuel. But this is the bike that he rode in 1965 and set those records in Lyons. And then this up here is the logo I had made in his honor. It says Hog Legend. And then if you see in the O in the word hog, he's coming right through that O. That's him setting the 1/4 and half mile record. That was him in the newspaper. I got that picture.
Wow. Yep. Yeah, legendary. It really is.
Yeah. And he was in motorcycle magazines, dozens of magazines, Easy Rider. So a lot of his history is well documented. And like I said, he's still remembered to this day. So as a part of this podcast, we're going to go see. We're going to go to Bonneville. We're going to see what that looks like and smells like and sounds like. We're going to go to the drag strips. And they have vintage drags that are still running bikes and cars from the 1960s, where we could go and really kind of feel the environment that your grandpa was such a big part of.
Wow, yeah. Just having that opportunity to have a day in the life, you know, kind of to roll back history and kind of stand in his shoes a little bit. Very exciting. Definitely looking forward to that.
Yes, sir. Me too. Me too. So we're going to walk all that together, but we're going to bring our audience with us everywhere we go. They're going to see it too.
Absolutely. Yep. Got to bring them along. I mean, it's going to be something. It's going to be something to look forward to. I think
Oh, so
people are
much
really going to
fun.
enjoy. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, we're going to have so much fun at this that I really believe we're carrying a message. The message is legacy. Your legacy, everybody's legacy, everybody's kids, grandkids, great grandkids deserve to hear the story of their parents and their grandparents and how much fun this is. Oh, we're getting ready to show everybody how much fun this is.
Yeah. It's gonna be a fun ride. You got to
Yes,
come along
sir.
with us.
So, and along those lines, let's talk about even more fun. 24 and a half years in the United States Navy. And
Yeah,
I
that's
got
a
to
little
tell you,
stretch.
son, that's a picture of me in an F-14. Yes, I flew in the F-14 4 times. And see what that is above my head?
It looks like it may be perhaps another
It's
F-14.
another F-14. So there were two of us out there flying, and I have the recording of the entire flight. But on this one, my pilot's call sign was TRAX, T-R-A-X. And all pilots and backseaters, NFOs, have call signs. That's how the towers make radio calls up to the aircraft. They call you by your call sign. That's Rhino flying that F-14 above us. Now, you see me looking up, and I got my mask off so you can see my face. I'm holding my camera between my legs. And the whole time, my pilot, Trax, is hollering, "Have you got the shot yet? Have you got the shot?"
Oh wow.
Because what he's doing, he's in front of me. He's looking straight up at Rhino to make sure we're not running into Rhino. Very uncomfortable position he was in
Wow.
while I'm trying to get this shot. But I got the shot.
Man, you look very calm in that photograph too, with everything that's going on. That's awesome.
Well, and I was comfortable in the F-14. It's like a cement truck in the air, although you don't have a cement truck that can do the things the F-14 can do. But it was a real heavy aircraft, and so it felt very stable. It's not like flying in a Cessna where you feel like you're sitting at the end of a rubber band. No, it's really solid and very stable. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Wow.
So, but we'll talk about my time in the Navy. I ended up flying in the F-14 4 times, and I'll make arrangements for us to talk to those pilots. I've already talked to Trax a little bit, and he's interested in coming in and having an interview with us to talk about what that was like.
Yeah, that'd be great to hear. Again, just hearing, making a full experience out of the photograph. To get his like input of just that what it's like to fly a jet. It's incredible.
Yes, sir. And so what's next? We've got 10 years as a Disney maintenance manager. So the blessings in my life just do not end.
Yeah.
I worked for Disneyland for 10 years and never lost my pixie dust. And in fact, I still love Disneyland. I know everything that goes on behind the scenes, but none of that destroys the magic for me in Disneyland. Mickey Mouse is real. Come on.
Yeah,
Come
there
on.
he is.
I'm just
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And I became a student of Walter Elias Disney. What that man did for the world, amazing. Just totally amazing. What he did, what he accomplished, what he brought to the world. The joy, the excitement. It's a place where you can go and kind of forget about your worries in the world. And it's fantasy, sure it is, but we need that. We need that. Our minds need to just relax and then have fun, and especially with our kids. It's so good to go to Disneyland with our kids. And you know something about that because
Yeah.
you and your sister grew up as Disney children.
Yep. Yeah, it was a glorious time, really, and we would go pretty much every weekend there for a while. I remember when you first got hired, I think you brought home a Mickey stuffed animal for me and a Minnie stuffed animal for Brittany, and that was like the announcement that you had gotten hired at Disney, and it was, man, some of my favorite memories in my life have been at that theme park. So very
Yeah.
grateful.
Yes, sir. And I'm not making this up either.
There
There's
it is.
there's my
Yeah.
name tag just to prove it. We're not
Yep.
making it up. And by the way, you have one of these name tags yourself. You spent some
Yep.
time working for the mouse, didn't you?
I did, yeah, yep. And I didn't lose. Well, there were some moments while I worked there where the magic kind of escaped me, but it always came back. It's a great place. And I'll probably have to dig up my. I have my name tag somewhere. I can dig up. But yep, I was there.
Yes, sir.
to
You
you.
sure were. What I want to do with our Disney segment as a part of this podcast is one of the things that I always wanted to know is when I go through the rides in those attractions, what story am I seeing? Every attraction, when it starts at Walt Disney Imagineering, starts as an idea that turns into a story. The Imagineers write a story, and then they build that story. It's amazing. But a lot of the rides, sometimes you can get lost, especially in Fantasyland, going through like Alice in Wonderland, and you're just swishing around and popping through all these doors and stuff. And it's interesting and it's fun, but what story do the Imagineers want you to see from that attraction? So one of the things I'm talking to Disney about right now, I got some initial response from them that's positive. I would love for us to go through those rides and then come back out and do a voiceover telling the guests, our audience, what it is they're seeing. Here's what you're seeing in scene number 1. You go through a door. There's scene number 2. What's that about? So what's the whole story that Imagineering has taken you through for each ride? That's what I would like to do to develop the Disney legacy that I'm sharing with you, is to go each of those rides and tell everybody, our audience and everybody, what that story is. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, just there's so much that I don't know. Like you were saying, like you go through the ride and you're going through scenes within 1 minute, and once that new door opens up, it's easy to forget what you just saw, or there's like a lot of backstories that you wouldn't even know unless you have someone that has the knowledge. And I mean, you've taught me a bunch about different rides, so I think our audience would be very interested, and I am as well, to learn more.
Well, there's probably a lot of people that come to Disneyland, guests that come to the park, who they enjoy the rides but may not even really be aware that there's a whole story that they're seeing. They're just going through and there's a lot of excitement and stuff going on, and what's the story? So that's what you and I are going to do. We're going to tell the story.
Yep, exciting.
So, and then the bottom of the list over here is Broken No More that I'm working on. And, I completed Overeaters Anonymous, which is similar to AA, and got some good recovery from that. And then later I went through Saddleback Church. Pastor Rick Warren created a program called Celebrate Recovery. So I went through that and benefited from that. But some years later, I felt like, I want to go back through Celebrate Recovery again. And Celebrate Recovery is everywhere, 37,000 churches across the world. I looked in Phoenix, I looked in Portland, not really finding the same vibe. And of course, I'm praying the whole time. And I prayed and I said, Lord, help me find Celebrate Recovery that's right for me. And he paused for a second, and then he said, write one of your own. Not like that, but he put it in my mind and in my heart. And of course, I laugh. I go, you got to be kidding. You got to be kidding. Oh my God. So here it is.
Yes.
Broken No More, the narrow path to sanctification. So, and I'm working with Dr. Sean Nayland, who's helping to guide me, and we've done a lot of work.
Yeah.
But it's not complete yet. It's funny because I'm writing this for myself. I ain't sharing it with nobody. No, of course I will. That's not the way God works.
Right.
But it's incredible how I'm being led. Taking the Bible, and there's a lot written in the Bible about sanctification. And that sanctification is the process of developing a Christ-like character. Seems obvious, right? But I've never come across a structured or systematic program to do that in marriage with a recovery program, because we all suffer addiction. It doesn't have to be alcohol and drugs and all that. I call those distraction addictions. Anything that takes our eyes off of being more Christ-like is technically an addiction. So it takes both. We each have to look at what the patterns are in our lives, habitual patterns that actually damage ourselves. It's not just drugs and alcohol, but anything we do repetitively that damages us. That's the recovery side. And then the other side, parallel to it, is, well, let's study what the Bible says about sanctification. How do we get there? What do we do? Yes, that's all part of Broken No More. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's spectacular. I think that's really in my journey with faith, that's been the one thing that I felt like there needs to be more of, is it seems like a lot of the stuff is to get you through the door, get saved, but it's the process after that where it's kind of like this long journey, and there seems to be not as much like guidance of like or reminders, to how to continue on the path. It seems like there's a lot of energy, which is good to get you through the door, get you saved, but then you kind of walk through the door, and then you're still looking for a path for the rest of your life, So
right.
That's pretty exciting.
I agree with all that. And I mentioned to you that I'm writing this for myself, because that's what I said. I said, God, what am I going to do? I can't find Celebrate Recovery. He said, write one of your own.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I took that at face value. But I've shared with you before, I'm also writing this for you. Not just you, but first you. Mm-hmm. So that I know that there's some struggles that you face, like we all do. And I think this would help to answer your question. What are the steps to sanctification? I got some recovery issues over here on the side, and we all do. So that's part of it, because those obstacles that get in the way of our path to sanctification, right? So we do both at the same time, but really what you're after is, what is that path? What are the steps? And so
right.
When we finish this, I really want to share that with you.
Yeah, looking forward to it. That's going to be great.
Yes, sir. Okay, so this is our first podcast, and we kind of touched on some topics. We're not ready to travel yet. We have another podcast that we're doing called Life of Larry, Back a House, and that is back a house to this podcast. A big part of it is, how are we going to raise funds? We need to raise funds through Patreon and GoFundMe. Well, why is that? Because we're going to need to travel. There's a lot of stuff we need to go see and bring our audience with us. We're planning a bike ride in October, specifically to raise funds to kickstart Life of Larry, because there's costs in the background. And I think all of our listeners can assume that and understand that. But we need a lot of it up front to help us. So in the next 3 months, we're going to be talking a little bit about GoFundMe and Patreon, a little bit on the LOL half of Life of Larry, but mostly we're sharing information and providing some entertainment on this podcast. The nuts and bolts will be over in the back of house. But we'll get to the point where we have a QR code for like and subscribe, which is really important to any podcast. I'm not sure if creators take the time to explain why everybody is talking about likes and subscribes.
Right.
Well, it's because that's how the podcast gets known. YouTube keeps track of likes and subscriptions and how many people are interacting with that podcast, then it raises that podcast up in the sort order for YouTube. That's how it works. So even though it doesn't cost you anything, doing that, likes and subscriptions, will elevate the podcast up to the top so that more people get to see the podcast. And frankly, I think you'll agree, Life of Larry needs to be at the top. Don't you think?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, we need the like, subscriptions, comments. Everything really helps to spread the message and get the word out there. So really appreciate the audience listening. If it's not too much trouble, those things really do help. Just shoot it a like, hit the like button, hit the subscribe so that you get notifications of when our new content's coming out. That stuff really makes a big difference for us.
You're right about that, son. So I want to have an outro for each one of our podcasts. And like I mentioned before, I don't have rights to any of the Beatles music. But I want it. I really want it. I want the 60s to be centered around Beatles music. Not that that was the end all to what was going on in the 60s, but it was such a power to us anticipating what is next from these guys all the time. So I really want to be able to take you, son, through each album, and we listen to songs on each album, and then we talk about it, and we share that with our audience. So that's really sort of the center, the structure of the 60s, although we'll talk about a lot of stuff. But also, I want the outro to be The End, the song The End by the Beatles. Now, I'll summarize what that song says, but it's the perfect close to our podcast, which is based on Laugh Out Loud, Love Out Loud, and the example of Life of Larry. Oh yeah, you follow old Larry. He knows the way.
Yes.
So that's the theme of our podcast, and this outro, I want it. So what is the end? You can go listen to it, but basically the message it has is when it's over, our life, the love you received equals the love you gave. That's not the lyrics they used, but that was their message. And that's what I would like our outro to be on this podcast, The End by the Beatles.
Yeah, that'd be beautiful. I think it's exactly like you're saying. It sums it up perfectly. So
Yes.
yeah, hopefully we'll get it. We'll speak
I
into
hope so.
existence.
It's a legal battle, and somebody's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
So, and ending with love. So, love covers a multitude of sins. It does. We don't have to be perfect, but the more we love, and in fact, if we do the things that Christ told us to do, and we don't love, we don't do it with love, then we're empty. We're nothing. As he said, is the greatest of these is love. And so our message in this podcast is practice loving out loud every day. Whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, whether it's your neighbors, even the homeless, they're all neighbors. And Jesus said, love your neighbors as yourself. That's the standard. But also, go visit Laugh Out Loud Back of House. So after we release this podcast, the next day we're going to release the next. Our goal is to release Laugh Out Loud LOL every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and every Thursday release Laugh Out Loud Back of House. So please check the description for GoFundMe, likes and subscriptions, and Patreon. We're learning how to develop those things, but we'll start adding those to the podcast, and it'll be part of this podcast when it's first released. So how about that, son?
Yep, looking forward to it. Let's go. We got
Yes,
it.
sir. Let's go. All right, son. I love you, and I'll talk to you again next week.
Yes, sir. Love you too, Dad.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.